As Sheriff Syed says in his article in VG247, bordering on parody. A motherfucking roadmap for a roadmap. That's what basically is happening with Squadron42 of Star Citizen project. Those that are not inclined to Star Citizen's environment, essentially Star Citizen as a project is a crowd-funded thing for two video games. One, the Squadron42, that is story-based, sort of a all-star cast type of a endeavor, and the titular Star Citizen that is basically the same thing, but open-world-ish multiplayer. Which arguably is what most people tend to go for most oftentimes, since it is the namesake of the project. However, the important thing is that they did promise two video games for whatever the fuck reason, and granted, that worked. They raked in, at this point, let's see, 300 plus the investment, 45 something million dollars for a fucking video game within these 8 years of development. That's more, mind you, more than any GTA games, plus their marketing. And they're still not finished. In fact, the Squadron42 is so misinformed or lacking in information from the developer themselves that some people think that that's just norm. However, recently, well, some interesting things happened, so let's go into the roadmap of the roadmap. Now, most of the money that goes into Star Citizen projects for both video games is raked in by the Star Citizen side of the things, where Chris Roberts gets to experience his Hollywood dreams, his fool's paradise. But generally speaking, the money gets brought in by the ship sales, and those are not cheap ships, they're $1,000, $2,000. There's a fucking package of all of them costing $37,000, for which I made a video about, so feel free to check it out. But beside that point, clearly Star Citizen is funded by the mega whales at this point. But you know what happens when those people, those wonderful backers who so diligently follow and trust CIG, the developer of Star Citizen project, ask questions? Well, I think I had a clip somewhere laying around about Sandy Gardner saying that whales get, you know, entitled and whatnot else and pissy. Anyway, somebody will probably find that wonderful clip and post it, right? Anyways, that aside, when we ask questions, you know, me too, I have spent, well, $50, but regardless, I technically am a backer too. When people like me, you know, decide, hey, what's going on with this other part of your promised project video game thing? We haven't heard shit from it for a long time, and you kind of promised for a beta to come out, basically. Now, where is it? So, CIG has this unique MO, the modus operandi, where they do basically the same thing that politicians do, and that is say a lot of things, while literally saying absolutely nothing. In fact, if you look at their YouTube channel or their forums and whatnot else, every post is basically that. Whenever they are asked about the ongoing things, the things that should, well, honestly be explained, or at least discussed, as with any normal crowdfunded project, well, CIG doesn't particularly care much for that, and we can see that today as well. A massive block of text saying that, oh, we wanted to make a shittier video version to just give you some information, but that got shuffled around, and we tried to make a roadmap for a roadmap, but we failed. Whoopsie. Give more monies, please. Okay, well, they didn't say the last thing, I'm just, you know, being me, but still, you get the point! Thing is, this is quite literally the most expensive video game, to at least the public knowledge, in the history. And on top of that, it's crowd-funded. It's raking in so much fucking money that it starts to feel quite disgusting for the level of things that have been accomplished and shown to us and given to us. Squadron42 overall is a great example of many things, in fact. That's mostly where the money these days is going, as a matter of fact, it feels. As, you know, the stars and, of course, the equipment that they use to film all the motion capture and whatnot else aren't just there for free, are they? And yet the real money comes from the Star Citizen side of things, the spaceship selling video game, or rather just spaceship selling idea project that is really going on now. And let's say you're like me and you shelled out the literally smallest amount of money possible just to check it out, or just to film it, or whatnot else, to observe it, if you will, more closely. Well, the available alpha, what they call playable alpha, laughably, well, that feels, quite frankly, just about the same as any asset flip on Steam. And really the only difference feels like is in the models, and that's about it. Are you really paying this much money for just high textured models? I mean, what is the point in that? And yet you have this development company, this studio, this entrepreneur, Mr. Roberts, who promises you a lot of things like a wildcatter. Worth celebrating right now? But returning to Squadron42, developers coming out with information that well summarizes to maybe 2 sentences and is quite farcical, should really not be taken seriously. And I am glad to see that plenty of people are still pushing back against that and being critical of it. However, that should be applied to the whole of the project. However, you can't save everyone. So, that is what it is. At this point, it is indeed the sunk cost. And the further Star Citizen, this spaceship selling video game, or just spaceship selling project, if you will, Squadron42 and whatnot else, as well as Chris Roberts' Hollywood dreams go on, well, it's certainly gonna end up being a really interesting lesson for history, as well as a great adventure to look at for sure. But anyways, every time I speak of Star Citizen, there is always a little caveat that I must say. If you want to support something that is not as egregious, greedy, and stupid, and actually produces interesting content and what else, check out my Patreon, because that always delivers the greatest stuff indeed. So check it out, indeed. Other than that, end of the video. There you go.